Hi everyone. Yeah, this is our first of the ION Fireside chats for quite a while. I think we did Adam's probably done quite a couple in the past, and I think Mike's done a few, but we haven't had one for a few weeks. But we thought it's perfect occasion to do one with a new team member joining our journey, although he's been part of our journey for a long time here. But yeah, just like to welcome Phil Beadle to the ION family and to the ION community, and maybe say a few words, Phil.
Yeah, well, this background makes me want to bust out a pipe and a glass of whiskey because it's like 30 odd degrees here today.
I know it is here too. I'm heating up, and I got like a massive computer behind me as well. So
maybe we should change it to like an outdoor barbecue fire.
Yeah. It's still sort of summerish down here. So, but no, it's great to have you join the team. I guess we were saying in one of the earlier AMAs about that the universe sort of aligns. Like we've been working together, and you've been sort of part of our sort of family at Redgrid for pretty much since 2018 when we had that we had a funny pitching event at the Melbourne Zoo of all places, and
that's right.
it was pretty interesting. A conference with lions and tigers roaring in the background, but yeah, you came along and sort of, we'd just been introduced to the holochain scene then, and you were very deep within that. Maybe tell us a little bit about that, the holochain experience, and bringing that into the energy sector when we first met you, Phil.
Yeah, well, mentioning of the zoo reminds me of that arena of the Australian Renewable Energy Agency. But it was like a 3-day pitch thing, wasn't it, to try and work out what your idea was. That was heaps of fun. Yeah, we actually came up with something pretty good there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been so I had a bit of a sabbatical most of last year. Did a bit of work with a friend of mine as well, and then had a couple of months off over Christmas again, and just been playing with my car and really just stepped back for a while, and moved into a new house last year and been trying to get solar on it since July. And because of all the COVID stuff and all those bits and pieces and things that happened, it didn't actually get installed until a couple of weeks ago. And over summer, I was like, what do I want to do for, good value work, and not just to make money, but to actually, do something useful. And you guys popped up in my head occasionally. And then after I got the solar installed and they showed me the Tesla app that comes with it, because I got a Powerwall as well. I was looking at it and it just went, oh, that's really cool. And then I thought, I wonder what Redgrid's up to. So I went and checked out your website, which, funnily enough, Stars Aligned had just been updated that day, apparently. And I got all inspired, contacted you, Sim, and yeah, now I'm working with you guys pretty much full time.
Yeah, so I guess like we've sort of come from that energy side, and you sort of came into the fold back in 2018, and now more with the ION stuff. But yeah, just what's sort of the things that's interest you in the energy space, and what, say a few words on what's attracted you to the ION to the ION ecosystem?
The energy issue is probably the biggest issue on the planet, I would say. One of the, after deforestation and stuff like that, it's all bad as well, but like production of power is a prime issue. Not only is it polluting the planet and destroying the planet, all that kind of stuff, but it's also essentially controlled. And basically we've been duped. Like Australians pay the highest in the world for gas and stuff like that. There's all these crazy things that go on because of the centralisation and these massive power structures, where now that I've got solar on my roof and a battery, I'm literally independent from the grid, and I've got excess solar to sell. So I get 10 cents a kilowatt hour from my energy retailer, which is, it's okay. But it's nothing like the buy price, right? Sometimes the buy price is 50, 60 cents a kilowatt. So one of my neighbours has solar and the other neighbour doesn't have solar. So it'd be really neat to be able to sell my next door neighbour solar off my roof at 30 cents a kilowatt, which is much cheaper for him. I get a much better profit margin, or I get a much better return on it. Plus also he's powering his air conditioners with solar power generated next door. And that's where I really saw the whole ION idea working really well. Because when you first mentioned the Bangladesh German solar thing, I was just like, what are these guys on about? Who's tripping? But I went, yeah, okay, nod, and eventually I figured out what you were talking about. And that whole idea now. So what's really exciting about this is that if we can change this, which we can, the way that energy is produced and bought and sold and traded in the area, like there's new property developments that we're working with, where they're building like 30 odd different dwellings. Some of them have solar and some don't. So on that's a perfect little case study for us to actually build a working version of ION with RedGrid that works in this particular environment. And from there we can expand it out, because we were talking about how, by decentralized, by making all this distributed, power distributed, consumption distributed, and using a currency similar to Holofuel, like a mutual credit currency, in that scenario, you end up with power not being transmitted as far. And also there's 250 community battery projects going on, right? So now you take away all the big problem on the grid, which is people putting all this power back in, and the government keeps saying, we're going to turn off solar because we don't know what to do about it. Well, instead of having like one big hill to push up with all the community batteries, the grid is just very local. So there's enough power generated in a suburb to supply a suburb. So you end up with like really interesting dynamics now of power as in electricity and power as in centralized power and control.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You're talking about 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and like where I am, where I'm not allowed to feed, because my grid is too constrained, so they just turn it off. But the inverter at the moment, and I know in South Australia, here they are requiring remote control of inverters so they can switch it off, because it just disrupts the grid. But it's really interesting that that sort of the central feeder structure, and now moving into this more distributed approach. I guess I'm curious to know, like, how do you think the technology can help solve those that sort of solution? I know you're a core part of the holochain enablement and that. So
I think the way that holochain is architected, which is the idea that you build some software and people use that software in a group or in a community or a network or whatever it is. And then if you want to change the way the rules are, or you want to change something about the software, go ahead, do it. Because part of the cryptographic autonomy license is that you have access to the code, data, and keys, so you can never be controlled. And so when you now have holochain running in this distributed fashion, and everybody has got their ability to change the code if they like, it's like I mentioned this in the AMA, but I'll say it again, like in the blog, the peer-to-peer communications blog post by Arthur and Come with the other authors. When he mentioned that holochain enables like language. So when we're talking, if you make up a word and start referring to something as this particular new word, such as selfie, which is a new word, then you see the power of it, right? That one person went, I've got a good idea, and implemented that idea. And enough other people thought it was a good idea. They went, it is a selfie, right? Yeah, beautiful. So with holochain and the way that you get the code, data, and the keys, and you can do whatever you like, and you're a completely autonomous agent, you can take any app and modify it. And that's great. Now you have a network of one. Now, if other people start working with you on your new modified code, then your word starts to gain some traction, right? And that's how the language evolves. Nobody gets cut out of the language, just things that aren't used anymore don't get used, or they get repurposed and things like that. That's how holochain apps will work. And if you think of that in the context of power, so in my neighborhood, lots of people have solar power, and we can quite easily manage a battery and that sort of stuff. In other neighborhoods, maybe there's no solar, or it's wind power, or it's some other thing, or they're maybe they're like a whole town, and they want to have slightly different rules or ways of interacting with power than we do in the city, because it's further distances or whatever it may be. But because of the way holochain works and ION built on top of that, means that that community can then go and change the rules and say, right, these are the rules that apply to this area. And if you want to participate, these are the rules you apply. So it works perfectly, as far as I can see.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a low, zero barrier to entry, and especially in energy as well. I guess every application is so unique and so different. Like it's sort of been one of the discoveries of playing in this industry, like every grid and every community has their own little tweaks and nuances, and sort of one size fits all doesn't accommodate it, does it? So
exactly, yeah. Imagine, because you imagine, like, let's say you put up a new suburb with 50 homes in it, and you just decide as part of the selling of the home, people never have to pay for power, right?
Yeah.
But that's a different model. Or you may have, like the solar producers in the area are more than happy to supply the local retirement village with free power. Because it's what do people want to do? It's your power. You generated it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So I guess that brings to the next question, which is like the future. What would be your vision for ION once we get the protocol out and we get the development singing along on it, and we have all these use cases? I know where the community battery one is like a real big one that we've spoken about a couple of times. That sort of really gets me going. But yeah, just in terms of your vision for where this energy system and economy can go if everything aligns for us. What's your thoughts on that, Phil?
Yeah, well, once you've got like really cheap, good quality power that is not only cheap, but it's also profitable for those producing it, i.e. instead of me charging 60 cents kilowatt hour, I can charge 30 and still make 30 because I didn't have to spend 30 kilowatts, 30 cents making that power. You know what I mean? Like, it's just solar power. Like, the sun doesn't send you a bill, right? I like that. Who said that? Jeremy Rifkin. And yeah, that's once that happens, then, because at the moment, solar and all sorts of regeneration, green energy solutions here are being suppressed badly.
Yes.
Because the grid can't handle it, because they haven't got a solution for managing that. So, because they're still thinking centralized power. Everybody puts in their power into this central spot. But with the way we're going to do it, where the power can be as local as your own house, you don't even have to sell to anybody else. You can just sell to yourself, supply yourself to that level of, then supplying to multiple neighbors, people with large roofs, or, who want to invest extra money in solar can then make more money from it. Then you end up with, like, maybe community groups will get in together and saying, right, at the local cricket field, we're going to cover all the community buildings with solar power. And that's going to provide income to the soccer club or whatever it may be, because the locals in the area are buying the power.
Yeah, or things like subsidizing your neighbor to get involved in. All of a sudden you start snowballing and accelerating these things because the power's back in the individual's hands to do what they want with that asset. I guess it's really interesting one. Like one interesting one is the sort of electric vehicle the implications of that moving forward. Be interested to hear thoughts on that. Like that's grid stability is a big issue, and then we add all these mobile batteries, you've got these static solutions that are accounting for energy in these grids at the moment, but all of a sudden you add all these big batteries flying around. That's an interesting one. What's your thoughts on that, Phil?
Well, it'd be kind of neat if, like, you drove your EV over here and plugged it into the wall and paid me in ION fuel.
Yeah. Yeah, quite easily.
Yeah, lots of opportunities for doing that as well. Like, if you go into most Bunnings stores now, you'll see they have a monitor up, and it shows the number of panels on the roof and the power that's been produced and where they've used it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I guess for getting involved and our upcoming release, I guess we've been working hard and doing a lot of work on the protocol release. Got any thoughts about how that's progressing, and sort of is it sort of coming to fruition in the way you imagined, or like any sort of big learnings from that process?
Yeah, well, again, the whole stars aligning thing that seems to keep coming up. The I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, that's right.
It's a fire.
Yeah,
it's a fire, Phil.
We started off with this original idea of making the university project much more generally acceptable. And then once we had a discussion and had to think about what it is we were actually trying to do, and then we looked at the progression in what Holochain is now capable of doing. So we didn't have to do a bunch of stuff that was done and all these kinds of, then we come up with this we come up with this evolution of the design so that it can specifically, in this case, apply to these community battery ideas or community battery projects. So what that'll be, it's going to be a Holochain app. It'll have, you can register as a producer or as a consumer. You can then negotiate a supply agreement between those two. You then do the supply and provide a bill. So we've got a entity relationship up there now. I'm just about to update the sequence diagram so that it shows our new sequence. But essentially what we're going to do is, and I used the new scaffolding tool, which is really awesome. GM's is amazing. You can just literally type in npm init at holochain, and then you get a running UI where you can put in your application name and some details about your app and press the scaffold button, and it creates the whole Holochain app, including a front end I've chosen Vue, but there was lit and svelte as well. So then you have this UI with DNA already built and ready to go with your different entities that you had, and a whole bunch of tests. And when you run it, it actually runs the Holochain playground as well. So you can see the different entries and stuff that are happening in your app while you're mucking around and building it. So I've scaffolded up all the different parts so far, and now I'm going through and adding in building the UI and the functionality for it. So the plan is, once we can do register a consumer, register a producer, create a supply agreement, create a supply and a bill as a very first draft, that's when we can we'll make that public. And then what we'll be looking for is people who contribute, who want to help, like, put in pull requests and things like that. That'd be awesome to see. And then, we'll do it like, we'll try and build a community around it. And, if you're a consistent contributor and getting your pull requests all the time, you'll go, hey, do you want to be, admin and stuff, doing your own stuff and growing that out, because we want to guide it to get started and seed it, but this is a community project, so we'll see where people want to take it.
I think like it's a bit of a loaded question, because you did give us a sneak peek last Friday and showed us through some of the stuff in it, and just interacting with it as well. It's like the big thing, like it's sort of a bit mind-blowing how close it is to the development in the Holochain ecosystem and the learnings with Holo and these type of the applicability into ION and what's being created and sort of where it can be used is, well, that was the thing that I've been jumping off the calls with you, sort of buzzing around, because I think, oh, I can use it in this way. I could build it for this, build it, solve this problem. There's like a bunch of stuff you can do.
Yeah.
So it's pretty damn exciting, to be honest. And I think like just in terms of community and release upcoming, I think the place to watch is probably the Discord channel at the moment. We have a protocol dev channel in the Discord, and we'll start to be having some more and more, adding some more and more conversations into there as we get a bit closer to the big launch event, and sharing a bit more content about how to use it when we release it, and how to become involved and join in the community and build it with us out. So it's pretty exciting time. And then also with I think we mentioned in the AMA as well, but the university link as well, starting to get involved in some of the students engaged in the university, and teaching and getting their input into the development is an interesting part. But yeah, I would say to anyone in the community who's interested, just keep an eye on the protocol dev Discord channel as in the first instance, because that's where probably I like to hang out, and Mike likes to hang out a bit. So we'll get the conversation started there, and exciting times to come. So thanks, Phil.
Pleasure.
It's
great to be back.
Good to have you on board. And again, it's like you came to our Christmas parties and did the A-Lab thing all that time ago, and now it's sort of come full circle, and you're back with us, and we couldn't be happier.
Once the COVID travel, so I suppose it's kind of died off a bit now, but we could do that trip up to where did we go up to Sunshine Coast or?
Yeah, the Holochain Dev.
Yeah, that was
fun. Yeah.
Do something like that again.